QBO Innovation Hub is a Philippine startup enabler that's bringing Bayanihan culture into the tech space, aiming to develop, grow, and scale a competitive Philippine startup ecosystem. QBO is celebrating its 6th-year anniversary this August 8th. Katrina Rausa Chan is the executive director at QBO Innovation Hub. So, hello, Kat. We're very honored and we're very happy to have you dito sa Startup Podcast.
Yeah, it's super awesome to be here at the Startup Podcast. So, hi everyone. Hello, cuties and future cuties.
Yeah, and so 6 years na no ang QBO Innovation Hub, pero hopefully in this conversation we get to know more ano nga ba yung naging story, ano nga ba yung naging journey, and ano nga ba ang vision pa ni QBO. But let's start with the first question. So ano nga ba ang QBO Innovation Hub? At bakit nga ba QBO or QBO ang name? Ano ba to?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. So it's actually not like QuickBooks Online or quality business operations. It doesn't stand for everything, even though we do capitalize it. So the QBO Innovation Hub, the name actually came from the Bahay Kubo. So kung sa Silicon Valley may garage, di ba? Yun yung usual na iniisip nila. Sa Philippines, parang if you have a single detached garage, medyo big time ka na. That's not necessarily the place where anyone can start their dream business or whatever. Pero what we felt was, what's something that's very Filipino, di ba? That we can all relate to. And it's actually the Bahay Kubo. That's from our office, actually, our very own Bahay Kubo. So anywhere, whether you're in Manila or in the province, you probably have been in a Bahay Kubo. You might have one in your backyard, di ba? Yun yung tambayan where you get to have conversations, where you get to start something, build something with your friends, and it's very accessible. And that's how we feel that, through Filipino innovation and startups and things like that can come to life. It can be from a humble beginning, diba? And I think the other big thing about the Kubo that we really love is this idea of bayanihan or teamwork, diba? Like, there's this iconic imagery of like when there's a problem or there's something big that needs to be solved, your whole community will help you and work together and lift your bahay kubo, diba, out of the baha. Parang gano'n or something. So I think that's the same way that we feel about parang Filipino startups or people that are aspiring to build their businesses. Na you can't do it alone, maybe, or it's very hard to do it alone. Pero with the power of your community, with the resources we can bring together, diba? Through bayanihan, through teamwork, and even with humble beginnings, a Filipino person, diba? A Filipino startup that has the ambition, the dream, and also the drive to make things happen can actually build a scalable business that can change the world. No? So that's sort of the background behind the Kubo or the QBO.
So yun pala.
Tapos naging Q lang siya kasi honestly, mahirap humanap ng domain. So, yun, naging Q na lahat.
I thought mo na medyo parang may technology aspect, may innovation.
Yes, that's the twist. That's the innovation part. Diba?
Funny naman yung story na yun. But anyway, no, so I really like the analogy, no, na yung Kubo is actually connected sa bayanihan culture ng Philippines, and mabubuo nga natin ang ating Philippine startup ecosystem with collaboration and with the community. Now,
collaboration, yes.
Collaboration and QMMUNITY.
Yes.
And I think, so very parang very crucial sa Kubo, sa platform na ito, yung parang coming together ng Philippine startups and helping each other. And Kubo is also playing its role as parang an national incubator for the whole Philippines. So can we just know lang, no, for our interested listeners, ano ba parang programs or services that they can benefit from when they become part of the QMMUNITY?
Sobrang dami actually. So we probably do like at least 100 programs a year. So at least twice a week there's something happening at Kubo, no. And siguro if I would bucket our programs or our services, it's really two things. One is to grow the startup community. So, napakalaki ng opportunities sa tech ecosystem. Some of the most valuable companies in the world now are in the tech space, diba? And we're startups not so long ago even, we'd think, no? So, we want to encourage more people to join the startup community. Alam ko, for many people, like especially siguro your parents or the older generations, hindi ka naman pinag-aral para lang mag-startup ka lang or whatever, di ba? Like it's still definitely more prestigious maybe to join a big company or to I don't know, be a doctor, lawyer, some kind of professional, di ba? Pero we want to encourage people to take part in the community and to explore, di ba? Like especially if they have an idea na this is something that they can pursue as a career, or they can work in a startup, they can work in a tech company. And also that, yun na nga, and even if you do decide to be a doctor or lawyer or whatever kind of professional, di ba? That there is something you can contribute to the ecosystem, no? So whether that's being a mentor, that's investing in a company that you believe in or you like what they're doing, you're in the media, diba? You're running a podcast and you can talk about startups. So that's the first part, no? So we have a lot of programs. We have things like Kulitan, yung basics, yung mga 101 on startups. We have things like, I don't know, just general like things so that you can participate in the startup community, whether you want to spend 1 hour a week or like, 40 hours a week, diba? Being part as a full-time employee, being part of the ecosystem. That's one thing. I think the second thing is really, if you've made that commitment and you're already a startup founder, you're already building your business, you're already working in a startup, diba? How can we make you better? How can we help your startup grow? So for those people, diba, ang ginagawa namin, we have incubation programs. Pag mas early stage ka pa, medyo binubuo mo pa yung idea mo, you're still looking for your first 100 customers, yung mga ganyan, diba? Like, you're not sure what your business model is. Or kung you're already like a startup na talaga, and you just really want to accelerate your growth, you want to find investors, you want to get media and publicity, you want to like refine how you do your pitch, no? You want to look at your financial model. So what do we do for these guys or for these people, diba? It's really about providing mentors and expertise. We have a lot of workshops. We even like coaching sometimes, like being accountable or having like milestones set for you. Ito yung mga ginawa ng iba. This is how you can do the same thing. Yun yung really the nature of a lot of our programs. We even have one going on right now, which is our 10th cohorts Idea Space Accelerator program, no, na parang for growth stage companies where we're really looking for startups na are looking to take it to the next level. Pero regardless of where you are, no, like in that spectrum of your startup journey, no, like we're really looking to again, our vision at the end of the day is to help Filipino startups succeed, Filipino startups changing the world, diba? So kung ano man yung kailangan mo to get there, whether it's to build a network, it's your first time building a business and you're not sure, diba, who to ask, how to get that investor, that's what we're trying to do for you.
Yeah, so basically in all stages, no, kahit nasa ang stage ka na yung startup journey, baka nga wala ka pang product, or maybe nga may product ka na, naghahanap ka na ng customers, naghahanap ka ng product market fit, or maybe meron ka ng nag-grow na yung iyong startup. Siguro let's parang to be clear lang. So can anyone ba join? Can any Filipino ba join QBO Innovation Hub? And parang paano ba sila mag-join? And meron bang like criteria or something? So yeah, and how can they join basically?
Yes. The short answer is yes. Anyone can join. Pero iba-iba yung tiers and iba-iba rin yung support within the QBO kind of QT network, diba? So yeah, so if parang medyo interesado ka lang in startups, you wanna learn more, you wanna hang out with founders and things like that, you can definitely join. You just sign up on our website, kubo.com.ph. We also have programs like Philippine Startup Week. So yon talagang last year, I think we had 13,000 people, no? So na tarang curious, exploring, diba? And if you're a basic quote-unquote member, diba? And again, all of this is free, ha? Like, whatever I'm about to say next, like, lahat yan libre. When you join, diba, you get to attend some events if you want, diba? You get the scoop with a Q, the newsletter, diba? Things like this, na, so that you can just learn about what's going on in the community.
Yeah.
I think the next step there is like, may startup ka na talaga, then you can register your startup. That's another parang tier of membership, I guess. So kung may startup ka na talaga and you're running a company already, diba? Or at least may MVP ka na, you've committed, then you sign up again. Like within the membership, you can sign up as a startup. And then that's the time na pwede ka you can spend time with our mentors. You can have some of our one-on-one consultations. Marami kaming workshops. We also have credits, mga ganyan, if you need like mga I don't know, with Google, Amazon, Alibaba, whatever your preferred tech platforms are. We have a lot of partners there that can help you in scaling your business. And then we have some programs that are a bit more selective, no? Like, so when you want to join a specific program, may criteria yung specific na program na yon,
I see.
'di ba? So of course, like, we open this up to all of our members, pero I think, if it's up to you also as the founder to look at ano ba yung program na bagay sa akin, 'di ba? Pasok ba ako sa criteria? So for that, we might be looking at specific things like ano na ba yung market size mo, or ano ba yung industry that you're operating in, 'di ba? Like, matutulungan ka ba namin? And if you think that you are fit for one of those programs, and we definitely encourage you to apply for that as well. So for that, baka may mas specific na criteria, pero in general, the answer is yes, anyone can join. No?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really the ecosystem, and really welcoming everyone into this startup ecosystem. Now I want to talk, and I want to ask about the culture. Napaka-noticeable ng culture ng QBO, especially with how you said those things, and especially how you call the community members the cuties. So parang QBO wants, of course, to develop a competitive Philippine startup ecosystem. Parang, of course, we want to develop and grow and scale our startups. Pero napaka-obvious actually yung parang inclusivity aspect ng QBO. So can you just share parang bakit and really why and how really is QBO doing this, or parang have this kind of culture?
I think at the end of the day, we really believe that we have the ingredients here in the Philippines, not to build $1 billion startup. You have the talent, like Pinoys, like when you put them anywhere in the world, they succeed, diba? Parang you think about the market here, there's like 110 million Filipinos. You hear these headlines, I don't know how true they are, about we spend the most time down social media, we consume on like yung mga, all of these things, no, that really suggest that there's the ecosystem is ripe for disruption, for innovation, for building like a huge success story. But nevertheless, yun na nga, the aspiration is still like to go abroad, or parang we haven't parang it's been difficult to think of, like, kumbaga, if you tell me about, who's your favorite tech founder, you'll hear something, I don't know, Elon Musk, ganyan, Mark Zuckerberg, di ba? Pero like, who's the Filipino that's doing that? And there are so many problems. When in startup world, we talk about, like, you fall in love with a problem, not the solution. Ang dami nating problema sa Pilipinas, di ba? There are so many problems that I believe we can solve here that probably they can solve in Palo Alto, in Silicon Valley, diba? Parang, so the people that need to build those solutions are probably gonna come from here. They understand the problem, the talent is here, diba? So what's missing, no? So I think at the end of the day, siguro yun na nga, if you already have the, if your last name is like, ends with Yala or Obel, diba? Or Kongwei, baka you don't need this anymore, and that's fine, diba? Like, that's still great. You still contribute to the ecosystem. That's not my point. Pero we're really inclusive because we believe na the opportunity is here and the talent is here. Pero a lot of the times, people may have a solution or idea, pero they don't know how to take it to the next level. They don't have the network or the connections or the mentors that they need to have the same kind of opportunities that they might have if they went elsewhere or did something else, right? And sayang naman. So, yun na nga. And I think it's with that parang underlying belief that we want to encourage, or at least, being just to step back, no, being a startup founder is super hard on so many levels. And it's not for everybody. Like, I'm not trying to say na everyone should just have their own startup and whatever. That doesn't make sense, right? Pero if you are the person na you think you have that idea, you want to do it, you're working hard, you're like all of these things, diba? Parang we want to level the playing field for you. We want to make sure that you have that opportunity to make something great, right? And when you build a great startup, you're not just helping yourself and getting rich, you're helping your employees, you're creating a new industry for our whole economy. You uplift the country, and potentially you uplift the rest of the world that has the same problems, or whatever you're building is trying to solve. And yun na nga, I think it's something that we need to be investing in, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, siguro nga like sa Bayanihan, no, parang walang iwanan. Kumbaga lahat talaga ng part ng community ay sama-samang matutulungan at magtutulungan. Tsaka it's really true, no, that maybe some problems like sa Philippines nga, maybe especially yung mga problems ng ating marginalized communities or nung kumbaga maybe sorry for the term pero parang like those below the poverty line, they can only be solved by having the perspective of those of if you have lived that kind of life, no. So parang if we just continue to empower parang yung medyo mas mas well off, maybe yung mga problems ng mga not so well off ay baka makalimutan at baka hindi natin ma-solve. So baka may mga maiwanan. So I really like that part of Kubo, no, yung parang really being inclusive and really helping one another. I think this is connected, no, that Kubo recently launched Startup Pinay. I think it's a very noble initiative, especially for our women sector. So can you just share to us, Kat, parang how and why Kubo really is doing this? And maybe I also want to ask, parang along the years ba, have you noticed ba kung parang dumami ba yung mga female entrepreneurs and female startup founders in Kubo's community?
Yeah, of course. It's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Like, yun na nga as I said, like, para sa saying kanina, diba, the Palo Alto in Philippines, diba? Parang, yun na nga like Elon Musk has probably never shopped in a sari-sari store and can't relate, diba? Like, I think it's pero I mean, going back to like, you know, your question about Startup Pinay, no? Like, siguro I'm also a female founder or someone that's like in this space. I've observed na, yun na nga, I'm saying, I will, to our credit naman as Filipinos and Filipinas, na we are kind of known as a more matriarchal society. We've had Filipina presidents, CEOs, mga ganyan, 'di ba, Supreme Court Justice, you name it. Hindi naman as if talagang dehado mga women sa Philippines, no. That being said, pagdating sa tech though, my personal experience and where probably the seed of this idea started was it was really obvious to me na parang when it came to startup events, tech events, like there were so many more men than women. Or even in a company where kahit na mix sila, 'di ba, there were male and female co-founders. Laging ang nagsasalita yung CEO, or pagdating sa tech role, 'di ba? It's the guy. Like, and I mean, we actually had a super quick convo about this before we started recording. Like, we went to Pisay and for me, one thing was like, yung class number, it wasn't alphabetical. It was like all the boys first.
Actually.
And then all the girls.
Actually.
And it's like very subtle things like that, diba? Na parang I think in the long term, discourage women or make them think na parang, oh, like the tech space is something that's just for guys. And I can easily think of like 5 sikat male startup people. It's difficult for me to come up with even 3 famous women in the startup space, diba? Or actually, pinakasikat ka na una ko may isip is like, I don't know, si Elizabeth Holmes for Theranos, and that was such a bad story, right? It was like scandalous or whatever. So anyway, that was actually a super long-winded way of saying that was you know, like I didn't think that there was a gap. Like when we started Startup Pinay, it was really more of just parang community, let's have like more women talking to each other, sharing our issues or things like that, no? Pero we have been working with some great partners, so the DTI, investing in women, and Australian Aid, diba? Parang and many others now in the last couple of years na UN Women, no? Parang na apparently it wasn't just me feeling this way na parang meron pa ring gap between men and women. Like it was I think it was something like 20% pala of all of the startups being started were kind of had female CEOs or founders. There were other parang alarming stats though when it comes to the fundraising naman aspect. I think it was only like 13% of women, yung mga companies were able to raise money was like, it was less than 20%, no? So, and in a country that seemed like women ruled, parang that didn't make sense. So, I think what we're doing at Startup Pinay at the end of the day is, one, it's really about breaking these gender norms, no? It's about like, it shouldn't be weird to hear like a female CEO or like a woman CTO, CFO, yung mga roles, hindi lang yung parang the girls are just for HR, for marketing, mga ganyan, di ba? And also to provide like, yun na nga, I think kung may problem sa startup founders, meron ding problem sa investors, no, in terms of like most of the people making investment decisions are men. So we wanted to highlight that issue also and make sure na women get the same opportunities to pitch or hear, get heard by more diverse audiences, diba? And they have the tools, diba, to be able to do so. So may mga meetups, we were coming up with mappings so that like people in the ecosystem can see like ano ba yung resources available to them. There's also like yun na nga, more specific mentoring and just being conscious about these things, diba? So that when we design an event, when we put together mentoring programs, they're like women are encouraged to participate. And what we have seen is like even just by saying na, hey, like we really looking for female founders or you should attend this, like that's those small steps are making a difference in terms of the outcomes that we're seeing. So yeah.
I think yung one of the key thoughts here, no, kasi you've mentioned nga about Philippines somehow being may parang matriarchal community, society tayo. Pero parang somehow those women are just outliers. Ang gusto natin is parang the average male and the average female can really compete with
each other. It shouldn't be weird.
Yes. Yeah. And it should be normal. Kumbaga, yung
exactly.
Like what you said nga sa Pisay, dapat nga alphabetical, magkakahalo lahat, no? Parang walang distinguish, walang pinakaiba kumbaga. Pero I mean, speaking of the ecosystem mapping, no, that you've also mentioned, can you also share more about this ecosystem mapping? You've mentioned na parang you also try to find out parang in the different areas of the country, what are the opportunities for female founders? Pero parang what's really this initiative? I mean, parang what is the goal of this?
Sure. It's actually like the same line of thought. Like when we looked at our programs and saan nanggagaling yung startups, it was like overwhelmingly from NCR. I'm actually a born and raised Manilena, so I'm sorry like if that's offensive. Pero I didn't realize it's a problem until I spoke with founders, no, like outside of NCR, parang that they felt they were so underrepresented or underserved. Parang bakit lahat ng magandang conference, lahat ng speaker, lahat ng mentoring I mean, during COVID, obviously, lahat naging online, so it didn't matter as much, di ba? Pero, I even heard terms like, quote, Imperial Manila daw, ganon, like, or whatever. Parang, if you wanted to get, like, good mentors, if you wanted to have, like, to understand what's going on, it seemed like the people felt na they had to be in Manila, which isn't true and doesn't make sense, diba? Again, we go back to nasan ba yung problem? Nasan ba yung, diba? Like, it's not like there's a monopoly of problems or a monopoly of talent or solutions in Manila, and yet, like, people that were trying to build things outside of Manila didn't feel like they had access to these resources. So, that's sort of the origin of the ecosystem mapping. Kasi I think the yun na nga, parang before you can solve a problem, you have to understand what's going on, right? And all of the write-ups and the publications, no, like they were always about the national government, what's happening in Manila. And if you were someone starting out somewhere else, right? You didn't know, meron ba, they didn't even know, like a number of them were like, nilapit na namin kayo kasi wala naman sa amin. But it turns out, they lived like less than 5 kilometers away from an incubator, or they had like, so the mapping is really about finding in each of these cities, like, and we've done probably like over 20 cities now, no? Sino ba yung mga players nyo? Like, sino ba yung mga game na, whether you're in government, yung mga chamber of commerce, like startup founders, co-working spaces, diba? Are there resources in your area that you should be talking to, like that you're not for some reason talking to, right? These were the things that and yun na nga, women founders, right? Are there resources for women? Like, are there, yun na nga, baka may mga co-working space looking for customers. Akala nila wala namang startup dito. The one wants to use it, mga startup naman. We can't find a place where there's good internet, right? Like, sobrang, even at that level, we found out na even at the most basic level, like, there's a lack of communication or transparency, and like getting these people into a room is important. That's one. And then very quickly, the second point also is when we pitch the Philippines, like we're not competing with each other. It's not like Cebu versus Davao, right? Like at the end of the day, when you think about what makes a unicorn, so just jargon for like $1 billion company, you're actually thinking about a company that can go global, that can go regional, right? So we have to pitch ourselves as the Philippines, right? And the full might and power of the Philippines is not just Manila. So like what we also try to do is try to make sure that we are able to capture what's happening, the activities, right? Throughout the country. And then we present this as a whole, di ba? So when we present the Philippines to the world, we can show na parang ito yung opportunity space in the Philippines. These are the problems, these are the startups, these are the resources available throughout the country. So that's also a big part of why we're doing the mapping, is to understand at the local level so people can understand each other, pero also at the national level so we can paint like a complete picture of what the Philippines has to offer so we can be more competitive globally, no?
Yeah, it's really amazing, though. And I've actually taken a look at those reports, and I really think it's compact and it's really comprehensive. Before we proceed, no, can you just invite our listeners na maybe they want to check those ecosystem mapping reports, and maybe also sa Startup Pinay initiative. So parang what can they see and what can they join to? What kind of programs can they participate on?
Yeah, I think the first step is really to sign up on our website and our social media. So it's www.kubo.com.ph and also at Kubo Philippines, no. And yun na nga, if any of these activities, if you're a woman, a man, or whatever, and you're interested in this, diba, for Startup Pinay or for any of our ecosystem mappings, and also we do kulitans, we do other things, no, in nationwide, working with schools, working with LGUs, no. If this is something that you think you will either benefit from or you can contribute to in any way, just like please join, kasi I think that's the first and low-hanging fruit, easiest step. Like sumali ka lang, like we're not expecting anything from you, like you don't need to prepare anything, but I think the first step is just show up and really just join. So please join our community.
Yeah, and check out the website, no. I really think maganda yung presentation website, and I really think organized and may presentable ang website ng Kubo. So let's go naman sa birthday or sa anniversary ng Kubo. So it's actually the 6th-year anniversary ng Kubo this August. It's called Kubo Kaarawan. So let's just celebrate with some stories, or like ano ba yung proudest moments that you've had, especially as director Kat ng Kubo. Can you just share some of this parang proudest moments?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, again, I still can't believe that we're 6 years old na, so above toddler stage. No, but I you know, the Filipino startup ecosystem has grown so much since the time that I started. So I was actually like one of the co-founders of Kubo, and you know nga, dati we had to like, people didn't even know what a startup was, and ngayon meron na yatang K-drama, di ba? Like just about startups, you know, it's like people are using some of the tech products we've worked with through the years and in their daily lives, and that's something I'm really, really proud of, no. So actually this year medyo simple lang naman yung celebration, but it's really about like, it's kind of a homecoming and kind of bringing people together, you know, back into the community and kind of looking back on where we started. What I will say is, yun na nga, like in terms of what I'm proud of or what I've seen, at the end of the day, like what gives me a kick, and I think many in our team, is really seeing the growth and the progression, no? Parang when you think about, you know, so we worked with startups like Kumu, or I'm thinking of this in the media space, you know, like Podcast Network Asia, no? Like where they were literally talagang, you know, they couldn't even afford like a Happy Meal, like, or whatever, diba? Like, or diba, pero it's where they really had just an idea, and like we saw them build and hustle and like figure out how to grow their customer base, right? And now seeing that, you know, even random people on the street are using some of these products. And we've seen this time and again, whether it's in fintech, it's in e-commerce, it's in logistics, in agri, diba? So, yun na nga, I mean, 6 years doesn't seem like a lot of time when you think about some of the big companies. No, pero in startup years, I think it's actually we're
Yes.
ancient. No, para a lot of companies fail within their first 1 or 2 years
Mm,
potentially, right? As long as you're learning from the process, um you're growing, and at the end of the day, yun na nga, I do wanna, if you're still on the fence or you're hesitating, right, about starting your company, I've seen it in the last 6 years. Like, you can build something, and even if you fail, it's not a waste of time, in the sense that you will learn so much in like 1 or 2 years trying to build a company yourself, as like, I don't know, an MBA or whatever, like grad school you can think of, no. So
but,
yeah, I don't
but
know, did I answer your question?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And siguro a lot of our listeners just want to ask din, for the state of the startup ecosystem in general in the Philippines, parang how do you think, where are we now? Parang are we in the golden, silver, or bronze age? Parang ano na bang state ng, ng ating ecosystem now?
I mean, the ages are kind of determined by the, medyo naging nerd, no, the materials that were kind of used in that time. Pero I'll be very honest, no. So I think in general, in terms of the funding environment, which is sort of the materials for our, as far as the industry is concerned, the last 2 years were definitely great. Like, it was to the extent na parang people were saying it's a bubble or it's overheated, diba? Pero even in the Philippines, we saw record-breaking numbers of people raising incredible amount of money from the private, diba? From venture capitalists, from private equity and things like that, no? So, coming from zero Series C companies ever, we have like 2 now. From yung Series B dati, isa or dalawa lang. Now we have like like in the last 100 years, and now we have like, I don't know, 6 new ones in 2 years, parang ganon. And all the way down the chain, the valuations have been really, really good. And I think that's been the maturity of the founders then. Parang we used to have a lot of parang first-time founders. Now we're seeing a lot more founders that are more experienced, that have domain expertise, that are doing this and that, no? So, in that sense, it's a very good time, no? Pero I will say we are entering into, because of the global economy, no, like the macro conditions, it is a bit more disciplined, like entering into the latter part of 2022 and going to 2023, and this might be too detailed, no, for someone that's listening to a podcast. Pero at the end of the day, like, I will say na nagiging mas disciplined na yung mga investors. So, hindi na pwedeng maganda lang yung idea, maganda yung market size, like, guwapo yung founder or maganda yung founder. I don't know, right? Like, and they'll give you a good valuation. So, they are looking now at more of the fundamentals of the business. Again, what problem are you trying to solve? How big is the market? Are you making good margins? Are your operations tight, right? Because when the economy is more it's contracting, people are more disciplined about where they're putting their money. That's something that all founders, I think, need to be conscious of, diba? So, hindi na pwedeng bola-bola na lang, bro. Like, you really need to be more, and that's why, again, you should work with incubators and accelerators like us, or people like us, diba, to help you kind of hone in on what you're trying to do and make sure that things are tight, diba? So, yeah.
That's a really good explanation. Actually, that's a sign of maturity, I think. Parang yun yung aspect ng regulation ng investments, di ba? Lalo na pag syempre napakalaking pera ang pumapasok sa Pilipinas, or maybe nagsisirculate sa Pilipinas from the investors to the startup. So maganda rin syempre na kumbaga stable ang mangyari, hindi naman yung parang baka in the future ang daming ng investments pero mawala naman lahat, di ba? So maganda pa rin syempre na controlled yung growth somehow. Yeah, so ano nga bang vision ng QBO really for the Philippine startup ecosystem? And maybe what do you have in store for us and for our listeners and for the whole startup community?
Yeah, like, okay, the grand vision and mission of our organization is Filipino startups changing the world. So that's really our statement, and it's not just a marketing statement. I wanna feel this on the ground. Like, siguro ako, my personal mission statement is, when I talk about being Filipino, diba? Like, oh, I'm from the Philippines, diba? I'm Kat from the Philippines. That people won't just say like, oh yeah, I love your dried mangoes or ang ganda ng beach sa Boracay. And those are all great things, diba? I'd love to one day hear na parang, oh, hindi pa dun galing yung company X that like people know and love and use every day, right? Like, I think Jollibee Chicken Joy is actually doing a very good job at this, by the way. Like, but anyway, yeah, so and how do we and if there's a way that we can contribute to that, whether it's as an investor, so we also deploy an early stage fund in idea space, diba? Like, or as an accelerator, an incubator, it's because like you went to one of our events and you were inspired or you learned something, like these are the things that we want to do, like to be able to realize that vision of helping a Filipino startup, and not just one, no, several Filipino startups really succeed on the global stage. And yun na nga, parang what we have in store, ano ba yung gusto namin i-plug? There's so many things, no, like maybe it can merit a whole episode. No? Pero I will say like definitely join our programs. Like yun na nga, like we have so many out there, and sometimes I'm surprised kasi like in a lot of them we actually give out free funding, sobrang ganda ng mga mentors and things like that, pero sometimes people just don't know about it or parang bagay yung business nila. I don't know why they're hesitating to apply. You don't lose anything by applying, right? If anything, you might say, oh, I lost time, pero we also give a lot of feedback, even the application process alone. So if that's something that can help your startup, I think you should definitely do that, no? The second thing is, yun na nga, events and kind of building your network. So Philippine Startup Week is happening this November. It happens every November actually. And I think it's very important for any founder to continue to build their network in the ecosystem, whether it's potential customers, it's funders, it's, people that can give you good ideas, diba, on how to build your business, or mentors and advisors, or even people to recruit, diba, your potential employees and co-founders and things like that. So I definitely want to encourage people to attend Philippine Startup Week. And then, of course, like, we talked about diversity a bit earlier in this podcast, no? If you feel like, like you're not someone that's, you can imagine is the typical startup founder, you didn't come from the right school, you're, I don't know, you're a girl, you're too old or too young to start a startup, like, all of these things are more in your head than in reality, right? And you're not from Manila even, no? So at the end of the day, like if you believe you're solving a problem and you're willing to put the work in, right? Like I definitely want to encourage you to join QBO, to join our program. So like don't even just join our programs, join other programs, right? Like pero don't let that be the barrier for you to not see yourself doing this, because there's so many paths to being a successful entrepreneur. And it's maybe more in your head than it is the reality, right? And there are people out here, there's a community out here to help you and to support you and to kind of build this with you. And yeah, like I think those are things I kind of
maybe just show up, no? And marami nga talagang tao na tutulong at basically just join the community. For our last question, Kat, no, this is a bit personal, pero is it fun or is it worth it? Or maybe what's your parang ano feeling maging co-founder nga and executive director ng QBO? Can you just share parang some personal stories and perspectives about this?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I won't say it's been the easiest thing to do. But that being said, like, I am proud. Like, I mean, I can't believe that this baby has been 6 years. It makes me feel a bit old. So, happy Karawan, QBO. But, at the end of the day, again, the most fulfilling thing is really the hundreds of founders that we've gotten to work with. Again, not all of them have succeeded, but I think even the ones where their business has failed, like, they've learned and evolved and, as people. And then for the ones that were the business are still going strong, like, good for you, right? But I think the past 6 years, it's been a journey about, not just growing myself as the executive director, but growing the team and like our team has also dramatically kind of evolved from the time that we started, diba? But I think, all of the founders we've gotten to work with and seeing their journey and how they have also kind of evolved. And it doesn't get old, in the sense that, every day, every week, every month, we get to see people with new ideas that are working on something. And we get to find better ways, diba, that we can support them. We get to find other people that actually want to put the time and the work in also to mentor, to help out. So it's been I wouldn't say, again, not an easy journey, but definitely a very fulfilling and exciting one. And happy birthday, Kubo. And the Philippines also, I will say na parang, when we started, apart from there were no K-dramas, like, a lot of people in the Philippines didn't even know what a startup was, and now it's like, many of them, whether you're a lolo or tita, diba, you're using like a digital product or service, they're interacting with our startups. The landscape has changed. The opportunities continue to be ginormous, and there's so much more to do and so much more to come. So
yeah. Speaking of pala, are you recruiting or hiring, or can our listeners maybe join QBO's team, or are you looking for interns maybe?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, we are a very growing team. So we are hiring for a number of positions. I will say, like, not just us, our startups are hiring. So if you're thinking about working in the tech startup space, there's so many opportunities there. But personally, we're looking for people to help us in our programs teams, our marketing team, our investment team. Like, parami yung startups, and there's right, and we're growing our team to be able to meet that demand. But that's always a good thing. It's a growing industry. Like, there are more people that need help, that need support, that need, even on the marketing end, diba, that need more podcasts for them to talk about their things. So absolutely, like, please send us an email or send us your CV at hello at QBO.com.ph, or check out our social media, our LinkedIn and our Facebook for our parang openings. Pero ang dami. So whether you want to intern, you want to volunteer lang your time, hindi lang, you want to volunteer your time, or you want to work with us full time, there are definitely lots of opportunities to do so.
Yes. Maraming salamat, Kat. No, I really think a lot of our listeners want to be part of the Philippine startup ecosystem. So maybe just invite them to join the community for our last.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please join our community. Again, www.kubo.com.ph, and our socials at Kubo Philippines. And please join Philippine Startup Week. So again, that's not just us, ha. Like, we just happen to be like one of the main organizers, but this is really the showcase of the Philippine startup ecosystem in the Philippines. So whether you're an explorer and you want to check out what's going on, you're someone in a corporate and you want to work with more innovative projects, you're a startup and you want a platform, this is really the biggest get together for startups and the startup community for the entire country. And last year, I think we had participants from like 50 plus countries internationally. Like, please check that out. And then again, Kubo, like, we really built this all on Bayanihan and teamwork. So please join the QMMUNITY at www.kubo.com.ph.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so we invite all our listeners to join Kubo's community. And ulit, happy birthday sa Kubo. And maraming salamat, Kat, for this wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Salamat.